If your life feels weird at 25, you're breaking free from the Matrix's shocking truth. The clock struck midnight when Sarah felt it, the quiet hum, like electricity sizzling in the air, charged with an inexplicable energy. It wasn't the normal buzz of city life. It was something far more unsettling. A shiver crawled down her spine, stopping her dead in her tracks. Outside, the streetlights flickered ominously, casting shadows that twisted like dark tendrils creeping closer. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she stood still, captivated by the bizarre pull of the night. What was happening? She glanced around, catching a glimpse of her neighbor's window, a glint of movement where there shouldn't be. Did she see a figure? Or was it just a trick of the mind? In the days leading up to this, Sarah noticed strange things happening to her friends too. Nick had developed a sudden obsession with the reality of dreams, questioning what it all meant. What if everything we know is just a carefully crafted deception? He'd say, eyes wide with a mix of fear and intrigue. Amy spoke of hearing whispers in the walls of her house, a muffled conversation in a dialect that felt ancient. The group laughed it off, but deep down, they felt it too, a creeping sense that their lives were unraveling, unspooling like thread from a fabric they once thought sturdy. As Sarah tried to navigate this unsettling landscape, she began to feel an invisible pressure weighing down on her. It was like trying to breathe underwater, each gulp of air heavy with an urgency she couldn't explain. The more she pushed against the tide, the more everything felt like it was slipping through her fingers. Her chest tightened. The lump in her throat swelled. Why was she suddenly feeling isolated in a crowd? The constant chatter of friends morphed into a dull drone, like static on a broken radio. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That very night, as the metallic taste of dread filled the air, Sarah found herself at the edge of the park, drawn in by a flickering image on her phone, a video titled, The Awakening. With every second, her heart raced faster. She could sense something monumental was unfolding. A shadow passed overhead, barely visible against the inky darkness, but heavy enough to make her gasp. She turned to run, but something stopped her, a whispering wind that seemed to chant her name. Was it all just a dream? Or had she stumbled upon the eerie truth? Sarah stood frozen, caught between the familiar and the unknown, her breath quickening. A realization struck her like a lightning bolt. She was on the brink of discovering something far beyond her comprehension, something that would change everything. What lay ahead? Was she really breaking free from the Matrix? Or was this just the beginning of something insidiously twisted? The night held its breath, waiting for her next move. As Sarah's heart thundered, a strange figure lingered just beyond the underbrush. Who was it? She could barely make out the silhouette. It was too dark. The tension in the air thickened, wrapping around her like a vice. She knew she could run, but her feet felt glued to the ground. The whispered wind tickled her ears, wrapping her in a web of uncertainty and fear. Sarah, the voice was faint but unmistakable, chilled her to the bone. Instinct took over and she took a single step forward. The motion sent ripples through the night, like a stone cast into a silent pond. The figure shifted, straightening up, revealing a familiar face, Nick. But he was different. His eyes shimmered with a haunting intensity that made her freeze. Nick, what are you doing here? This is bigger than us, Sarah. We have to wake up. He stepped closer, urgency radiating from his every word. Something is coming. I saw it in my dreams, the patterns, the threads of reality unraveling. They're watching us. Watching. Panic flooded Sarah's voice. Who? Not who, what? It's everywhere, lurking behind the veil of our reality. The whispers in the walls, those strange feelings were not alone. He glanced around, almost expectantly, as if expecting someone or something to emerge from the shadows. The silence pressed down on them, heavy and suffocating. In that moment, Sarah's pulse raced not just from fear, but from something else. A wild curiosity ignited within her. What did Nick mean by wake up? Could they truly break free from whatever this was? She took a breath, steadying herself amidst the rising tide of emotions. But how do we escape? What do we do? There's a gathering tonight, just a few blocks away, he explained, his voice a conspiratorial whisper. A group that knows the truth. They've been waiting for us. They can show us. Hurry! An urgency in his tone snapped her focus. If we don't act now, we might be too late. Sarah hesitated, fear wrapped tightly around her heart. What if this was just another layer of madness? But the look in Nick's eyes told her this was about more than just pushing through an illusion. This was about survival, a quest for truth in a world spiraling into chaos. With a nod, she made her decision. Lead the way, she said, determination coursing through her as they rushed toward the gathering. The air crackled with electric anticipation. Each step echoed against the pavement, the haunting shadows trailing behind them, reminding her just how much they were venturing into the unknown. Suddenly, the whispers returned, louder now, swirling around them in maddening crescendos, like a crowd of unseen souls pressing for attention. Do you hear that? Sarah whispered urgently, glancing over her shoulder. The night felt alive, as if breathing alongside her. Nick nodded, fear palpable between them. We're drawing closer. It's time to find out what lies beneath the surface. The sound morphed into something more distinct, a chilling chant, layered and intoxicating. It urged them forward, a song of awakening promising both enlightenment and danger. Finally, Sarah spotted the faint glow of lights just ahead. The gathering was real. Reality twisted around her, and as they crossed into the illuminated space, dread coiled within her once more, a feeling that something crucial was about to crack open and flood into their world. But what awaited her on the other side? Was it the truth she sought or a deeper nightmare lying in wait? The answer hung in the balance, waiting to unfold. The moment Sarah and Nick stepped into the light, a wave of heat washed over them, stark against the chill of the night air. Faces emerged, some familiar, but twisted with a strange intensity, others entirely unrecognizable. A pulsing energy coursed through the crowd, vibrating with an anticipation that set her on edge. This is it, Nick murmured, gripping her arm tightly. The clearing was filled with makeshift altars, each adorned with strange symbols and flickering candles. Groups of people whispered among themselves, their voices overlapping, creating an eerie symphony. Sarah felt as if she decrossed into another world. She was awash with a sense of both wonder and dread. What do they know? What are we doing here? Sarah questioned, her voice strained with confusion. Before Nick could answer, a figure stepped forward. Dressed in a flowing robe, the woman was striking with wild hair and vibrant eyes that seemed to pierce through her. "Welcome, seekers," she said, her voice rolling like distant thunder. "You have answers to seek, and we are here to guide you." The crowd grew eerily silent, all eyes locked onto her. Sarah's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Tonight, we peel back the layers covering our true reality. But be warned, it comes with sacrifice. Will you accept this? The woman's gaze bore into Sarah. Sacrifice? The word felt heavy, loaded with implications. We have been living in a programmed existence, the woman continued, glancing around the gathering, her fervor mounting. Tonight, we'll break through this facade. Whether you choose to see it or not, the truth waits at the edge of choice. What's the truth? Sarah thought, panic sparking anew. Shambling from the back, an unkempt man raised his hand. What if we're better off not knowing? He shouted, a wild look in his eyes. What if ignorance really is bliss? Murmurs erupted around them. Some nodded, fear etched across their faces, while others leaned in closer, intrigued and hungry for knowledge. You cannot unsee what you've seen, the woman warned, her voice cutting through the clamor. To choose ignorance is to choose bondage. The words struck Sarah like a lightning bolt, igniting a spark of fear. She felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Could she really go back to a life where shadows loomed larger than truth? All of you, the woman called out, her eyes ablaze with fervor. Will you break the chains? Or remain forever confined? Sarah's breath quickened. The chants around them intensified, feeding her growing anxiety. Reality pressed in close with each heartbeat. Nick's hand found hers, pulse racing, a tether in the mounting chaos. We have to decide, he said, urgency coating his voice. What do you want, Sarah? What do you believe? The question hung between them, her heart pounding with uncertainty. Choose freedom, or retreat into the safety of the known? All is revealed in the dance of shadow and light. The woman continued, gesturing dramatically towards the sky. What will you uncover tonight? Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed from somewhere deep in the woods. The ground trembled as panic erupted within the crowd. Faces morphed from hope to terror. Where was the noise coming from? Sarah, Nick shouted, pulling her toward the edge of the gathering. We need to go. Now. But her feet felt stuck. The woman's words swirled in her mind, and something inside her throbbed with urgency. She had to know. If they left now, would those shadows follow them? The lights flickered ominously, and the shadows began to stretch unnaturally, reaching like creeping fingers. Sarah's stomach knotted as the feeling of being watched intensified. Stay close, Nick urged. We're not safe here. But what if this was her only chance to uncover the truth? A dizzying swirl of uncertainty dragged her under as she fought with the decision. What would she choose when everything blurred into darkness? The chaos intensified. The crowd surged, bodies pressing against Sarah as panic rippled through them like a wave. Nick's grip tightened, but her heart raced for a different reason. The unkempt man's desperate question haunted her. What if ignorance was bliss? She had felt bliss before. Was it worth sacrificing the uncertainty squirming inside her? Please, let's just go. Nick pleaded, fear dancing in his eyes. He pulled her backward, away from the woman and her pulsating energy. But the woman's voice echoed again. What you seek lies just beyond your fears. Embrace the truth. As if summoned by her words, the deep crash reverberated through the woods once more. This time it was closer. The crowd screamed, a symphony of terror that rang sharp against the night. Something was coming. Sarah, Nick yelled, yanking her harder toward the treeline. Now, but she hesitated. The shadows around them twisted, whispering secrets she couldn't quite grasp. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet a part of her yearned to discover what truth lurked beyond the veil. Are we going to let fear decide for us? She thought, wrestling with the chorus of voices pulsing in her mind. Glancing back at the woman, she saw the raw intensity in her gaze. It was igniting something fierce deep within Sarah. The urge to know beckoned her closer. The confrontation in the woods drew nearer, looming large like a beast in the dark. Stay, Sarah cried out, wrenching her arm away from Nick's grip. What? Are you crazy? He gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. The crowd swirled, dispersing in all directions, but her focus was solely on the woman. The energy in the air thickened, crackling with anticipation. Sarah, don't! Nick shouted again, desperation creeping into his voice. But she was already walking back toward the center, where the woman stood with an unwavering presence, her arms now raised, summoning the gathering into a trance. Awaken, the woman declared, voice booming. Awaken to the truth that lies within. The world around Sarah shifted. Faces became blurred. The crowd's panic seemed miles away as she closed the distance. Just a few steps more, and she could hear the distinct breaths of those who sought answers, just like her. Suddenly, another crash echoed, resonating through the air and splitting the ground beneath her feet. Then came a roar, raw and primal, a sound that bore the weight of countless haunted dreams. It was no longer a question of whether to leave. It was a question of survival. Sarah, please, Nick shouted from behind her, breaking the spell. But it was too late. The woman locked eyes with her, the intensity pulling Sarah deeper into the abyss. Who are you? Sarah murmured, breathless from the unfolding madness, vulnerable but curious. What do you want? The corners of the woman's mouth curled into a slow grin. To show you that you are far greater than you know if you're willing to pay the price. A rumble shook the earth as shadows lunged forward, grotesque figures slinking through the crowd, eyes gleaming with hunger. They were drawing closer, and now terror surged through Sarah's veins. Choose your truth, the woman boomed. But remember, freedom demands sacrifice. Everything in Sarah screamed to run, yet her feet remained firm, caught between fear and the enigmatic promise of revelation. The ground quaked violently now, and as the shadows drew near, Sarah had to decide. Would she embrace the chaos, or let the fear swallow her whole? Sarah. Nick's voice sliced through the panic again, cutting through the obscuring haze like a beacon. But the shadows were mere whispers away, and the chilling question loomed. Could she leave behind her comfort in exchange for a truth she might never recover from? With her heart pounding as loudly as the approaching chaos, she locked eyes with the woman, bracing for whatever came next. What truth would unfold when the shadows danced closer, and who among them might not survive the revelation? Sarah's heart hammered as the shadows crept forward, the tendrils of darkness pressing in like a suffocating fog. The rumbling beneath her feet grew louder, vibrating through her bones. Nick was losing hope, and she could feel his panic fluttering around her, like frantic wings seeking escape. But the woman's voice had ignited something in her, a yearning too potent to dismiss. Stay with me, Nick shouted, his hands trembling as he reached for her. But the energy radiating from the woman felt magnetic. It pulled Sarah away from the safety of Nick's grasp, away from the frantic energy of the crowd. The world blurred and sharpened in moments, flickering between fear and exhilaration. Do you wish to know? The woman asked, her gaze steady, piercing through the chaos. Are you prepared to face what lies within? What lay within? Doubts? Fears? Regrets? Or something deeper, something that might silence the chaos outside? Her mind was a tempest, and the shadows were hungry, closing in like wolves on their prey. I don't know, she stammered, uncertainty clashing against the wild surge of curiosity. A low growl filled the air, and Sarah spun to face the approaching dark silhouettes. Their eyes glowed, frozen in a predatory stare, hungry whispers curling around her, echoing the woman's words. Liberation demanded sacrifice, but what weight would that sacrifice carry? Everything has a price, the woman cajoled, her stance unyielding against the shadowy figures. What is your fear, and are you willing to confront it? Nick's voice, strained and desperate, shot through her thoughts again. Sarah, we need to go, now. But the truth beckoned like a siren. What if this was the moment she had been waiting for? The chance to fuse the warped pieces of her life into something whole? Suddenly, a flash of monstrous forms broke through the darkness, grotesque features twisting with what seemed to be hatred and hunger. They darted at her, lunging with speed, snarling, their sharp teeth glistening under the moonlight. Sarah. Nick screamed again, but his voice sounded farther away now, drowned in the chaos. With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward, dodging one of the beasts that leaped into her path. Heart racing, she turned back to the woman. Show me, she shouted, a roar of defiance rising in her chest. Then awaken. The woman swept her arms wide as if willing the universe to bend to her command. The shadows recoiled momentarily at Sarah's fervent declaration. In that brief hesitation, clarity struck like lightning. Beneath the weight of fear, she could feel the remnants of her bliss sparking to life, the drive to reclaim her narrative, to confront the shadows both physical and within. Face the truth, she yelled, steadying herself as fear and hope swirled together. The swarm shifted, their growls harmonizing with muffled cries from the crowd. A cacophony of sound enveloped her, pressing against her, daring her to waver. Then the rumble beneath her feet erupted into a cacophony of sound, a shockwave ripping through the air, forcing the shadows back for just an instant. Embrace it, the woman shouted, her voice stronger than the turmoil around them. What is your sacrifice? Stop, Nick cried, breaking through the noise, eyes wide with terror as he watched the scene unfold. But his words were lost amidst the roiling tension. And just like that, Sarah felt a flicker of determination surging through her. She glanced back at Nick, whose face reflected a mixture of confusion and fear. A choice lay before her: turn away and live in the comfort of ignorance, or plunge into the unknown, embracing the truth that may very well consume her. Let it in, she urged herself, heart pounding, the shadows swirling closer. The moment had come, sharp and urgent, and with it, the dawning realization that only in loss could she find herself. But as the darkness closed in, a blinding flash erupted from the center of the gathering, illuminating the terrifying forms, revealing what previously lay hidden. What lay behind the veil of shadow, and how would it change everything she thought she knew about herself? The light was blinding, a shock wave of brilliance that sent the shadows recoiling as if burned by its purity. Sarah squinted, instinctively raising a hand to shield her eyes. In that moment, time stretched like a rubber band. Her heart raced, each palpable beat echoing in her ears. Nick's silhouette flickered in her peripheral vision, moving closer, desperate yet grounded by the sight of her determination. Sarah, don't lose yourself. Come back. His voice cut through the haze, a lifeline amidst the chaos. But it was too late. The blinding light morphed into shapes, figures emerging from the depths of shadow, their forms becoming clearer with each heartbeat. These were not the monsters from her nightmares. They were people. Distorted but people, their faces twisted in expressions of anguish, fear, and something else, fury, or perhaps a longing for connection. Each figure seemed to pulse with life, yearning to break free from the clutches of the dark. As the shadows dispersed, the cries of the crowd faded into a strained silence. What are they? Sarah's voice trembled as she took a step forward, the magnetic pull of her curiosity outweighing her fear. Reflections of what you hide within, the woman replied, her voice steady and powerful. They are fragments of your own sorrow, your own fears, but also your potential, if you dare to face them. Sarah's breath caught. Behind the closest figure stood her younger self, unsure, vulnerable, lost in the storm of growing up. Those familiar eyes, already filled with doubt, looked back at her as if searching for answers. Don't run. Face it, the woman encouraged, beckoning Sarah to step deeper into the light. A growl erupted from the shadows, reclaiming attention. The monstrous forms, invigorated by the revelation, tightened around Sarah once more, their snarls resonating with desperation. They want you. They desire your weakness. Nick suddenly lunged, propelling himself towards Sarah. No, you can't let them. I have to, she cried, cutting him off. A sense of purpose washed over her. The truth demanded a confrontation. The roaring tempest within her surged as she faced the figures, defying the darkness closing in around her. Show me, she urged again, shaking free from the chains of doubt that had bound her for so long. The woman nodded solemnly, acknowledging Sarah's bravery. Each decision you made led you here. Each regret, each fear. They don't just shape you. They can empower you. The air charged, crackling like electricity. The figures began to merge into one liquid-like entity, a swirling mass of memories and emotions crashing into Sarah, urging her to remember every moment she tried to forget. Pain, loss, rejection, each sensation seared through her, visceral and gut-wrenching. Embrace it, the woman echoed, the words ringing with an urgency that transcended the chaos. The shadows lunged then, sharper and hungrier, seeking to reclaim Sarah's resolve. Pain etched itself across her features as she battled against those memories. Deep down, she felt the fire igniting within her, a rebellion against the darkness that sought to shackle her with fear. Cries of pain turned to defiant roars as she opened her arms wide, surrendering to the force of her memories. I won't be afraid, she bellowed into the tumult, channeling every ounce of her strength toward confronting the truth. The light intensified, bright enough to obliterate the shadows, creating a beacon of hope. And as the menacing shapes faltered, Sarah felt a pull, a connection to her true self forming, a connection that soared even beyond the confines of fear. But just as the surge peaked, A shattering sound ruptured the moment. Cracking through the air like glass breaking, it sent a shock of terror coursing through Sarah. It was a voice, distant but powerful. "Sarah." Nick's shout cut through the brilliance, drawing her focus away. The shadows convulsed violently, fighting against the light that threatened to obliterate even their remnants. Fear reared its head once again as Sarah faced the swirling contradiction of light and shadow. Was it truly hope that awaited her, or would this moment be twisted into yet another betrayal of her dreams? And in that turmoil, another voice joined the chorus, a haunting echo that called her name from within the shadows, one she had tried to forget. As the luminosity flickered, a new threat emerged from the depths, something darker than fear. "Will you answer or turn away?" The tension hung thick in the air, the inevitable clash drawing closer. What answer would Sarah choose when faced with the darkest part of herself? The ground trembled beneath Sarah's feet, a subtle but ominous reminder that something monumental was about to unfold. The light pulsed forward, battling against the shadows, fighting to remain a beacon in this growing storm. In that moment, Sarah's heart felt heavy like stone, weighed down by doubt and confusion. "Don't you understand?" The echoing voice from the shadows pressed on, now swirling around her like a malevolent breeze. "You can't escape what's in you. You will always carry it." Her younger self stepped forward, eyes wide with fear. "I don't want to be like this. I don't want to remember." The child in her sounded so small, so lost, it tightened a knot in Sarah's chest. "You can't forget, but you can learn," the woman urged again, her voice steady. "Transformation comes from acceptance. Embrace it." The swirling shadows lunged at Sarah, wrapping around her like tendrils of darkness, pulling her into their suffocating grip. Memories flooded back. The feeling of isolation in a crowded room, the tightening in her throat when she thought she could never be enough, the sting of every harsh word thrown her way like daggers. They were not just memories. They were anchors, tying her to fear. "Sarah, you're stronger than this," Nick shouted, his voice slicing through the noise. He fought against the darkness around her, struggling to reach her with his own fear and fury. "Fight it. You can do this." Tears streamed down her cheeks, blurring the light and shadows before her. Strength and vulnerability danced in her chest, battling for dominance. Was she truly ready to face her fears? With a guttural cry, Sarah thrust her hands forward. "I will not let you define me." The shadows recoiled, surprised by her resistance. They pulsed with anger, but also something else, an unexpected despair. Taking advantage of their momentary falter, Sarah focused on the light she felt building within. "Remember who you are," the woman encouraged, her voice echoing like a distant melody, guiding Sarah to the truth. The entity of light flickered with a life of its own. It radiated truth and power. This energy coursed through Sarah as she gathered her inner strength, igniting each painful memory like a flare in a dark night sky. "I embrace my past," she declared, feeling the warmth of the light envelop her, the shadows retreating as it surged forward, meeting them with a force of compassion. "I won't run from the pain or the memories that have shaped me. They're a part of me." In that moment, the dark figures shrank back, their fury twisting into something almost sorrowful. They began to dissolve, melting into the ground beneath her feet. But in their place, another shadow broke free, stepping forward from the chaos. This figure was familiar yet terrifying, embodying all the insecurities she had harbored. It was her, but darker, jaded, and consumed. The embodiment of her fears whispered, "You think you can defeat me? You'll never be enough." A chill twisted through her spine as doubt washed over her. What if it was true? What if she couldn't escape this part of her? "No," Sarah shouted, shaking her head fiercely, refusing to let that voice seep into her mind. "You don't own me." She felt the heat of determination rise within. She had fought long enough. It was time to reclaim herself from this internal war. The light around her shone brighter than ever, illuminating the darkness that had lingered too long. "Will you face me?" the dark figure taunted, its voice a sinister hiss in the silence. "Yes," she cried, her heart trembling but resolute. "I will not back down." Suddenly, the ground beneath them split, as if the world was tearing apart. Cracks spiderwebbed through the earth, and chaos erupted around them. The very essence of her fears was ready to clash. But as despair twisted into determination, Sarah felt something shift within her, the final realization that she was not just a victim of her past but its survivor. As the clash of light and dark surged around her, a question echoed in her mind, pulling her deeper into the fray. What sacrifice would she have to make to truly break free from the chains binding her soul? The moment the ground cracked, Sarah's heart raced. The fissures unleashed a kaleidoscope of chaos, swirling dust and fragmented memories flying around her like angry spirits. The shadows, now more pronounced, seemed to pulse in time with her own heartbeat, thriving on her fear. The sense of dread clawed at her. She felt it clawing its way up her throat. "Face the truth, Sarah," the dark figure sneered, its voice slithering through the air like smoke. "No matter how hard you fight, you will always be defined by your pain." "No," she shouted back, the weight of determination flooding her lungs. "I refuse to let you dictate my worth." The shadows recoiled slightly, as though her defiance had struck a nerve. With every breath, she focused on the warmth radiating from her heart. She was more than just pain. Slowly, she began to weave the light from within into a shield, an armor forged from her acceptance and understanding. "Remember who you are," the woman's voice echoed around her again. Clearer this time, it wrapped around her, fortifying her spirit against the voracious shadows that clamored for dominance. Sarah stepped towards the dark figure, her voice steadying as she declared, "I am not my failures. I am not my fears. I am a survivor." As her words reverberated, the shadows hesitated, flickering under the blaze of her light. The grim figure that mirrored her insecurities faltered. Its features twisted, revealing a visage of torment that echoed back all she tried so hard to bury. "What if you let go?" the dark self whispered, the seductive pull of despair creeping back into her mind. "What if you're just a shell of who you could be?" "What if no?" Sarah interrupted, the tremor in her voice spilling over into anger. "You don't get to play those games with me anymore. I will not let you fill me with fear." With that fierce proclamation, a dam of emotions burst within her. Anger, regret, joy, and sorrow surged forth, mixing with the light that exploded from her heart. She sent out tendrils of brilliance, striking the dark figure. Light and shadow clashed, creating a violent storm of energy that sent shockwaves through her body. The ground shook violently, and reality felt as though it hung in the balance. For a split second, everything froze. A wide expanse opened around her, revealing fractured memories, moments of laughter, breathless joy, dusklit sunsets tinged with nostalgia and heartache. Each memory was a blade, cutting deeply into the sense of self she tried so hard to fortify. "Embrace them," the woman urged. "It's the pain that shapes you, the lessons that set you free." The dark figure faltered again, its sneer crumbling. It began to dissolve like smoke in the wind, fluttering away into the cracks of the earth. Yet, just as the shadows receded, an unsettling sense of emptiness filled the void they left behind. A heartbeat passed, then another, as Sarah stood amidst the turmoil. The turmoil dimmed, though shadows lingered at the edges, watching with bated breath, waiting for their moment to reclaim her. "What now?" she whispered to herself, anxiety pulsing at her temples. "What more do I have to face?" She glanced down at her trembling hands, still glowing from the warmth of her rediscovered strength. The struggle was far from over. She could sense it just beyond the horizon of her consciousness. Suddenly, a whisper floated through the air, soft yet insistent. "The final truth awaits." Sarah's stomach nodded. What lay ahead would demand even more than she was ready to confront. Could she summon the courage for what was to come? A looming shadow emerged from what remained a figure more powerful than anything she had faced before, a presence she couldn't yet comprehend. As the darkness shifted, Sarah felt the air grow heavy, a palpable tension building. She took a resolute step forward. "I'm ready," she declared, though deep inside, uncertainty gripped her. But was she truly ready to confront the final truth? What awaited her on the other side of this darkness could either echo her deepest failures or finally set her free. The shadow loomed closer, its vastness swallowing the dim light around Sarah. She felt the cold creeping in again, that familiar numbness that had haunted her in moments of doubt. Was this what it meant to face the final truth? "What do you want from me?" she shouted into the abyss, her voice echoing against the jagged edges of her reality. "Your surrender," the shadow responded, the words wrapping around her like chains. "Embrace the pain. It's your safety net. Without it, you are unmoored adrift." Fear rippled through her. Could she really let go of all that she clung to? But another voice broke through the haze, a soft, persistent whisper that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. "You are not just pain," it reminded her. "You are also strength." She looked down at her hands, the glow merging from despair into something vibrant. The familiar warmth flickered inside her, urging her to stand her ground. "I will not become a prisoner of my past," she asserted, stepping forward with renewed urgency. The shadow hesitated, its form wavering like a mirage. "Then what will you become, Sarah?" it hissed, its voice seeping with venom. "An empty vessel? A flickering flame extinguished before it's truly sparked?" "No." The denial surged from her core, almost like a physical force throwing back the oppressive darkness. "I will become whole. I can collect the scattered fragments of my life and forge something powerful out of it." The darkness around her twisted violently, as if her declaration was a blow. The shadows fought back, pushing forth memories that attempted to drag her into despair. She gasped as flashes of her past invaded her thoughts, a scene of her childhood, tangled with laughter and love, but tinted with faded moments of hurt. Her breath caught in her throat, but she didn't look away. "Look at me," Sarah screamed, forcing herself to face the images, each weighted with an emotional punch. "You don't own me anymore." The shadows writhed, snapping at her heels, but she was resolute. She felt the warmth in her heart intensify as she embraced each memory, good and bad, spinning them into a tapestry of who she was: a survivor, a role model, even a dreamer. "That's it." The woman's voice rang out again, lifting above the chaos. "You are the weaver of your life." With a fierce determination, Sarah raised her hands, channeling all the memories into a radiant orb of light that shimmered with possibility. The dark mass inched closer, but now it was the shadows that trembled. "The truth can either break you or make you," she declared, stepping into the dark's reach. She thrust the orb forward with all her strength. Light met darkness in an explosion of energy that enveloped her. Time froze again, and for a heartbeat, Sarah felt suspended in the balance caught between the girl weighed down by her past and the powerful force she was becoming. Then came an excruciating crack, an echo of release that vibrated through her very soul. When the light faded, she found herself standing in a vast, sunlit field. The shadows hovered at the edges, darker and more menacing than before, but they no longer felt like a consuming void. Instead, they loomed like sentinels waiting. "What does this mean?" Sarah pondered, her heart racing as she looked around. She searched for answers, but only silence followed. The hushed whispers of her own strength became louder, but now she knew, the final truth awaited, shrouded in the light of possibilities. Then, a chilling breeze swept through the field, and a sinister laugh echoed, sending shivers down her spine. "You think you've won? The real battle is just beginning." A prick of fear mixed with resolve filled her chest. What lay ahead felt like an uncharted territory, but she couldn't turn back now. The shadows swirled, their shapes morphing into something unfathomable as they beckoned her closer. "Are you ready to face your ultimate fear?" That menacing whisper danced around her as the darkness surged forward. Her heartbeat raced. The confrontation was not over. It was merely beginning. Would she be able to rise again, or would the shadows drag her back into the depths? The next step, she knew, would define everything. The air crackled with anticipation as Sarah faced the shadows looming at the edges of the sunlit field. Her heart raced, and her palms felt clammy against the surge of power that coursed through her. It was one thing to battle through the chaos she had faced, But this was different. This felt intimately real, more like a reckoning rather than a confrontation. "Who are you?" she challenged into the swirling darkness, her voice steady despite the tremors echoing in her chest. "Why do you haunt me?" The shadows seemed to ripple, the laughter echoing louder, mixing with the soft whisper of the breeze. "Your greatest fear is not my form, but what I represent." The dark voice slithered through, sharp as a knife. "The fear of never being enough, the desperation to belong, to be accepted, to be loved." The words hit her like stones dropped into a pond, creating ripples of regret and longing. But within those painful reflections, Sarah saw something new. She saw the strength she had gained, the fight she had put up to claim her truth. She felt the warmth of determination rising within her like a bursting flame. "Then let's confront it," she declared, drawing on every ounce of courage she had. "I will no longer let you dictate my worth." With each word, she summoned the radiant orb of light she had created, channeling her memories into a glowing beacon of hope. It shimmered with the love and strength she had cultivated through her journey, the laughter with friends, the moments where she had felt weak yet pushed through, the dreams she held close to her heart. She thrust the orb toward the shadows. A transparent rush of energy burst forth, illuminating the darkened area with vibrant, blinding light. The shadows twisted and writhed, their laughter quickly turning to howls of rage. "You think this light can banish me?" it roared, an echo swelling in intensity. "I am the darkness that lives within you." "No," Sarah shouted against the noise. "You're a part of me, yes, but I will not let you consume me. I know the truth now. I am not just my fears. I am my strength. I am my resilience. And I choose to rise." Straining with effort, she pushed the orb further into the fray. The blinding light struck through the shadows, breaking their hold as they unraveled around her. Inch by inch, the darkness receded, shrieks transforming into desperate wails. Each sound clawed at the edges of her mind, begging her to surrender, but Sarah stood firm. "It's time to let go," she cried out. "I embrace all that I am." With one final surge, she released the radiant light into the shadows, engulfing them in a burst of energy that sent shockwaves coursing through her. The moment it connected, the shadows splintered apart, revealing the flickering memories of her pain and sorrow within. These fragments, no longer terrifying, shimmered with a muted glow, dancing around her like fireflies in the night. But instead of vanishing, they circled her, colorful and radiant, illuminating aspects of herself she had longed to reclaim. There were echoes of joy, potential, and a fierce spirit that once blazed brightly within her. "Will you accept me now?" the shadows whispered, their voices drowned in the chorus of her memories. "Can you see us as part of you?" Sarah felt her heart lurch, a powerful rush of empathy swelling within. "Yes," she affirmed, her voice stronger than ever. "I will accept you. You belong with me." With that declaration, the shadows transformed from monstrous figures to a gentle flood of twilight. They embraced her, intertwining with the light, creating a tapestry of both hope and struggle. It was a balance, and Sarah realized that true acceptance meant embracing every aspect of herself as the last remnants of darkness faded. The sunlit field stretched before her like an endless canvas, waiting for her to paint her truth. The shadows no longer loomed menacingly. They held wisdom and lessons of resilience. "This is just the beginning," a voice echoed from within, resonating with triumph and clarity. "Welcome to your new reality." Breathless but empowered, Sarah took a deep, cleansing breath, absorbing the warmth and the freedom coursing through her. She allowed herself a moment of peace, feeling the profound weight lift away as she stepped forward into the light of potential and opportunity unfurling before her. Time felt suspended, peace settling over the horizon, promising that whatever lay ahead would only lead her closer to understanding the power that had always existed within her. And as she crossed into the brilliance, Sarah knew her journey was not just about breaking free from the matrix, but embracing the beautiful complexity of being fully, unapologetically human. The echoes of her experience faded into a soft glow, and the path ahead shimmered with bright possibilities. She was ready for whatever came next. Now, more than ever, it's essential to share this experience and ignite a fire in others too. So if you've enjoyed this story, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive narratives. And smash that like button now to feed the algorithm's hunger. Don't hold back, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice matters. Let them know you were here. Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us build a community that embraces the light and conquers the shadows together.